All right, day 46. Today, we're going to take a little different approach than what we've been doing, where we were more focused on the bird strategy. Today, let's stay with the basics, the fundamentals, just to get a quick refresher. Now, what I want to do is show you that I'm just looking on Redfin in the Birmingham, Alabama market. I'm looking at 4 bedroom properties plus single family homes and properties that have been on the market for less than 7 days. All right. And that's how I found this property 1520 3rd Ave, Bessemer, Alabama 35020. And this property is just outside of Birmingham, right? Birmingham's right there. This is southwest of it. And this property is relatively renovated. So you can kind of understand, okay, if I were to assume that this property doesn't require much rehab after looking at photos. I mean, the floor looks great, paint looks good, bathroom is somewhat modern. I mean, it looks pretty solid, right? So how would you go about analyzing this deal for the first time, especially for Section 8 purposes? Okay. Now, here's how I would do it. If I were to see this property right away and I never analyzed the Birmingham, Alabama market, I would first look up HUD FMR, HUD FMR. When you Google that, the first link up on top is going to be from HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, click access to small area FMRs, fair market rents, look up FY 2025, you can go to Alabama and find a county that this property is in, which is in Jefferson County, if I remember correctly, right? You just do a control find if you want to find it really fast. Jefferson County, great. Now, after you click on that, you can see that it lists your rent ceiling. Right, this is the rent ceiling by bedroom count by zip code. In 35020, the rent ceiling is 1580. So let's write that down. 1580. And your 3-bed is 1420. Just so I have the number there. 1420. Great. 35020. I'm writing down all these details because my partners already understand how I analyze these deals. So now that I got my rent ceilings in there, I also have to compare this to what the market rent looks like. Now, if I go to the market rent and I go to affordablehousing.com and I go to the owner section and I go to the market rent somewhere, plug in the address, plug in bedroom count. It says right here, the average rent for a 4-bedroom home within a 2.88 mile radius is for 25 units is 1542. Interesting, right? That's pretty high, actually. That's almost higher than the small area FMR. The problem is the small area FMR, right? This is the payment standard, which means it also includes utilities. So if you don't include utilities in your rent, you essentially have to back out the utility allowances for the utilities that you're not covering. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to do 2.88. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this area to see whether or not properties within my area is actually within the 1500 range. The problem is sometimes Birmingham is such a street by street market, you want to get a little bit more certainty. So when you see 35020 and I'm looking for properties for rent and I'm looking for 4-bedroom homes only, there are single family homes. Okay. Let's see, where's my property again? 15020. And if you look at the neighborhood, this is just right where the Bessemer line is, above 14th Street, which is 150, and to the east of Route 11. Okay. East of Route 11, north of 14th Ave. Great. There's a property right here for $1,300. Another property right here, 4x2 bath, for $1,475. Another home right here for $1,240. So let's go ahead and take a look at whether or not these rents are priced high or low. So you can see right here, below market rent. How do I verify that? So my general rule of thumb is that for every day on Zillow, you want there to be one contact. If there are more contacts than the days on Zillow, then chances are it is below market rent because you're getting more traction. So this tells me that 1240 is below market rent, right? At 4.2. And my home is a 4.2 2042. So this might be my bottom case scenario at 1240. Okay, let me write this one down. 1240. Okay. Now, if I would look at other properties in the area, there's this property for 1300. 1300 has been on Zillow for 17 days and 2 contacts. Okay, this is a little bit higher, but it's not getting any traction. Probably because this is a 4-1 1300 square feet and the other one is a lot bigger. How about this 1,500? 2,000 square feet. This property has been on Zillow for 6 days and have 5 condos. So this is probably fairly priced. So at my square footage, right, a little bit underneath that, I'm probably going to underwrite this property at 1,400. Okay. Because I see a 1,240 and a 1,475 getting a ton of traction on the 1,240, roughly in line with the expectations on the 2,300 square feet home, 2,200 square feet home. So I'll probably underwrite this property assuming it is a 1,400 home. And you can see the general condition of the home, it's similar to my property that I have right now. So I don't feel good about going higher than 1,400. And this is how you can quickly determine what your rental assumptions should be on a monthly basis. Don't just look at affordablehousing.com and then using the market rent estimator. Look at what's in the market, what's on the market right now. What demand are you seeing in that area? And then make a wise judgment call there. Again, this is an art, not a science. And you're going to get better and better at this as you look at your market more and more every single day. All right. So now that I got my rent assumption in there, I'm going to get a few more things. I'm going to put in my property tax estimate, which is right here is 46. It goes 46. Obviously, you should double check with your county or assessor records before you close on the deal to give sure you're getting the accurate number. The next thing I want to do is I want to pull in this homeowner insurance estimate of 136 equals 136. And I'm going to multiply this by 1.2. That 0.2 that I'm multiplying on top of the 1 means that I'm adding a 20% premium from that insurance estimate. Why am I doing that? And it's because I'm assuming that this 136 number right here is assuming that you're living there as a primary residence. When you're using a property as an investment property, insurance companies typically view your property as a riskier asset. That's why I'm adding a 20% premium to this page, okay? All right, so now that I got my expenses right there, and then I'm going to add in 10% of my rents set aside every single month for maintenance. Why am I doing that? Because we know that the roof is going to get replaced at some point, right? In 10, 15, 20 years. We know that the HVAC system is going to get replaced in 10, 15 years. I just had an HVAC stolen, and that cost me $5,000 to replace. Okay. Then I got another property management for 10% for property management, and I got 5% for vacancy. Great. Now that I got all these numbers in place, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have 7.5% for my financing amount. I got 25% down for this property. So that's going to equal to B4 times my 24%. Let me put in 175 for my asking price because that's what was listed at, right? 175, correct. Okay. Then let me put in my renovations, right? So I'm assuming this property is rehab correctly, but I'm still going to set aside $1,500 in row 6 on a rehab calculator spreadsheet for $1,500. And now I'm going to have another $500 for landscaping. Then I'm going to have, let's see, 2,000 square feet. Let's assume 20% of the home needs some touch-up paint at $3 a square foot. That's $1,200. So that gives me some buffer, right? Then I got 2 toilets I want to replace with high pressure flush toilets. That's great. And this allows me to have a total rehab number of roughly around $5,000. Great. Now that I put in my financing amount, which is B4 minus my down payment amount in E19, I'll be financing $131,000, assuming a 7.5% interest rate. And if I underwrite this property, assuming a 4-bedroom rent at $1,400, I will cash flow negative. I'll be losing $77 a month, and that's a negative 1.9% return on my capital if I bought this property for $175,000 with a $5,000 rehab. Now, let's go through it, right? What if you thought you can get up to $1,450 in rent? Now it's a little bit more favorable, but you're still not there. So let's go back to $1,400. And the exercise I want to go through with you is I want to help you determine your own criteria for yourself, right? This is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm simply showing you how to adjust the levers on each part of the spreadsheet and the input so that you can get to the price or the set of terms that might make it a deal for you. All right, so if I go and I put in, let's lower my asking price. Let's go to $100,000. Now all of a sudden I'm at 12.7. Okay, if my target return is 10%, what is the ceiling that I'm willing to pay for this property? How about 109? Okay, great. At 109, if I rent this out property for $1,400, then I can get a 10% return by cash flowing $269 a month after all my expenses, right? This is net for 25% down 7.5% interest rate. Great. Hopefully that helps you, right? Now, I'll go through one more scenario. What if the interest rates drop? Now, as you all know, the affordability of homes is also heavily driven by interest rates and the purchase price of properties. And if you've been following what's been happening, right? The 30-year mortgage interest rate is heavily driven by the 10-year yield, the 10-year interest rate on a treasury yield. Now, we're nearly at 12-month highs, but our interest rate has come down because it's also affected by the spread between the 10-year treasury yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rates. Historically, that spread has been 1.5% to 2%, but it's gone as high as 3%. And that's when you saw interest rates in the 8s almost. And that literally brought housing market to nearly a stall. But as it went up, you could see what happened there. Okay. Now that you see what has happened, what does that mean? When interest rates drop, you're going to see affordability go up, monthly payment is going to be going down, and then your purchase price is going to go up. And that's why we monitor so closely what's happening with the market. Don't listen to the doom and gloomers out there. Just follow the 10-year treasury yield, okay? So now, if the interest rates drop to 6%, all right, just by going down 1.5 points, I saw my cash and cash return jump. So I am now willing to pay, let's see, 121 grand for the property. When 1.5 points drop, I can pay nearly $12,000 more, assuming everything else stays constant, right? With a $1,400 rehab, because then I'm able to cash for $297 a month. All right, I'll do one more thing. What if you went in and looked at the property and you said, oh no, the rehab tripled now. So even though I was willing to buy the property for 121 grand because the interest rates dropped to 6%, now that I went in and I inspected the property and I had an inspection contingency, I can now go back to the seller and say, hey, I can't pay you 121 anymore because that doesn't meet my return criteria. Now, if I'm going back down to 110, great. Now I'm back close to the number. So because my rehab tripled to $15,000, I'm now only willing to pay $11,000 less of a total of 110 grand, assuming I'm still at 25% down with a 6% interest rate with $347 of cash flow a month for $1,400. Okay, that's where we are. Hopefully that was helpful, everybody. I wanted to go through exactly how do you determine your rent, because look, we saw that a rent on affordable housing now was $1,542. We saw that HUD FMR was $1,580. But you have to use a lower digit because of a test called the rent reasonableness test, right? If you go to the Housing Choice Voucher Program Guidebook, right? This was formerly known as Section 8, but they rebranded from Section 8 to Housing Choice Voucher because of all the negative connotations that were associated with it. And if you go ahead, you go to 2.2, you says that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. This means that you can't charge more rent simply because you're renting out to a voucher holder. All these factors matter. Okay? All right. So hopefully this was helpful, everybody. Today, what I want to show you is we're going to go ahead, and if you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, go to affordablehousing.io, go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, plug in your name, your email, your phone number. That's the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do next is, I hope you guys copy my homework, right? Analyze the same deal analyzed today using the same spreadsheet and put it on your own YouTube channel. Because at some point in time, someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is the deal? And you can say, I know this is a deal because I've looked at the properties for the past 486 days. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. So, new podcast alert. If you guys ever want to learn about how the Habitat for Humanity works, check out the latest podcast I did with Velma. And she talked about exactly how she evolved her role, going from working in public, nonprofit, private, and all the way to Habitat for Humanity, which is such a great story in of itself. And it was so reinvigorating to just hear a story about how they're helping homeowners with homeownership opportunities. So make sure you take a look at the latest podcast, learn from it, check them out. It was Habitat for OC. And I will see you tomorrow for day 487. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow.